what's the true smell of the American West? It's not just sagebrush and dust. For the visual historians of the 19th century, it was the pungent, sweet smell of ether and the metallic temps of silver nitrate. Before the West was won, it was captured trapped on fragile sheets of glass and blackened iron. To really understand the frontier, we can't just look at old photographs. We have to resurrect the alchemy that created them. This is a journey to reconstruct the vision of the pioneers, using the exact volatile tools they carried across the Great Plains. In 2024, capturing a mountain range takes a smartphone in a split second. But back in 1860, it required a wagon, a portable chemistry lab, and a mix of courage and patience known as the Wet Plate Collodion process. Our journey begins not with a camera, but with a bottle. Collodion is this syrup-like mixture of gun cotton dissolved in ether and alcohol. It's sticky, highly flammable, and incredibly fickle. To see the West as the pioneers did men like Timothy O'Sullivan or William Henry Jackson, we have to adopt their hardships. We're standing at the edge of the Badlands in South Dakota. The wind is howling, carrying grit that threatens to ruin our work. This whole process is a race against time. First, we pour the collodion onto a pristine glass plate, tilting it carefully to coat the surface evenly. The excess drips back into the bottle. Then, the plate is dipped into a bath of silver nitrate for 3 minutes. Inside the dark box, a portable tent that suffocates you in darkness and chemical fumes. Miracle happens. The silver reacts with the salted collodion, and the plate becomes sensitive to light. From this moment, we have roughly 10 minutes to load the plate into the camera, take the picture, and develop it before the chemicals dry. If they dry, the image is lost forever. Now, we haul the heavy, bellows-style view camera to the edge of a precipice. The lens is brass, heavy and devoid of any mechanical shutter. The shutter is just the photographer's lens cap and his hand. And here lies the first secret of the pioneer's gaze: spectral sensitivity. The chemical emulsion of the 19th century was only sensitive to blue and ultraviolet light. It was completely blind to red and barely saw green. As we frame the shot of these red clay canyons, we realize why old photos look the way they do. To the wet plate, the deep blue sky appears almost pure white because it overexposes instantly. But the red rocks, which reflect very little blue light, appear deeply dark, almost black. This technical imitation created the noir West. The pioneers didn't see the vibrant ochres and azures we see today. Their photographs rendered the frontier as a place of extreme contrast, a stark, dramatic, and sometimes foreboding landscape. We remove the lens cap. 1, 2, 3. We count the seconds aloud, just as they did. 4, 5. The wind shakes the tripod. 6. We cover the lens. Back in the dark box, illuminated only by the dim glow of an amber lantern, we pour the developer over the glass plate. This is the moment of magic. Slowly, out of the creamy gray fog, an image emerges. First, the skyline, then the shadows of the rocks. We rinse it with water to stop the development, but the image looks negative, pale, and ghostly. This is an ambrotype. To see it properly, we have to place a black backing behind the glass. Suddenly, the negative image flips to a positive. The silver highlights shine against the black background. Holding this ambrotype of the Badlands in our hands, we're seeing a level of detail that rivals modern 4K digital sensors. The grain is non-existent. The image is actually made of microscopic silver crystals, and it feels three-dimensional. This was the Polaroid of the 1850s, an instant, one-of-a-kind object. There is no negative to make copies from. This piece of glass was in the camera. It was physically touched by the light of the landscape. It is a relic, not just a picture. But glass was heavy and fragile. A mule stumbling on a rocky path could destroy months of work, and that's where the tintype, or ferrotype, comes in. As we move our expedition toward the Rocky Mountains, we switch techniques. Instead of clear glass, we coat thin sheets of black enameled iron. These plates are durable. They could be mailed, dropped, or carried in a saddlebag. The tintype democratized the face of America. While the ambrotype captured the majesty of the land, the tintype captured the people. Cowboys, gold prospectors, and Civil War soldiers heading west could all afford a tip. We set up a makeshift studio by a creek. The process is the same collodion, silver bath, exposure, but the result is grittier. The image on the metal plate feels rugged. It has a metallic sheen. When we photograph a reenactor dressed as a trapper, the tintype renders his weathered skin with unforgiving texture. The UV sensitivity amplifies every wrinkle, every sunspot. Pioneer photography wasn't about vanity. It was about documentation. It didn't flatter. It verified existence. One of the most profound realizations during our recreation is the concept of time. In modern photography, we freeze a split second. A bird in flight is suspended in midair. In wet plate photography, the ISO, or the sensitivity, is roughly 0.5. A modern camera might have an ISO of 800 or 1600. Because the film is so slow, exposures often last for several seconds. We attempt to photograph a rushing river in Wyoming. In the final plate, the water isn't splashing. It's a smooth, soaking mist. The trees, blowing in the wind, are slightly blurred, creating a ghostly aura. This is why the pioneer landscapes look so serene, so still. It wasn't that the West was quiet. It was that the camera could not capture the motion. Anything moving too fast simply disappeared from the image. A bird flying across the sky during our exposure leaves no trace at all. The 19th century landscape was a world emptied of fleeting moments, leaving only the permanent, unmoving geology behind. As we travel, we have to acknowledge what these techniques often fail to capture, or captured with bias. The empty West was a myth perpetuated by the long exposure. When photographers like Edward Curtis later documented Native American tribes, they often used these slow techniques. The sitters had to stay perfectly still, sometimes with neck braces to hold their heads. This technical necessity contributed to the stoic Indian stereotype, those serious, unsmiling faces. You literally could not smile for 10 seconds without blurring the photo. We try a portrait of our guide. We ask him to smile. After holding the smile for 8 seconds, his facial muscles start to twitch. The resulting image looks strained, almost painful. We realize that the grim look of our ancestors was unnecessarily a lack of humor. It was a requirement of the chemistry. The physical toll of this kind of photography is immense. Our fingers are stained black from the silver nitrotit, was known as the mark of the photographer. The ether makes us light. We find ourselves by a campfire in Utah, varnishing the plates. The final step is to pour a mix of lavender oil and sundarak varnish over the plate and heat it over an open flame. The smell is intoxicating lavender and alcohol. This seals the silver, protecting it from the air. This ritual connects us to the pioneers viscerally. We aren't just observing the West, we're struggling with it. The water for our chemicals comes from the creek. The dust in the air becomes a permanent flaw in the sky of our images. These aren't filters you add in an app. These are physical artifacts of the land itself. So why does this all matter? Why resurrect a dead technology? As we look at our collection of tintypes and ambrotypes spread out on a wooden table, we see a version of America that feels heavier, more significant. Digital images are data. They're fleeting and infinite. A wet plate is an object, it's imperfect. The edges are rough where the collodion dried too fast. There are comet tails where dust specks interrupted the flow. But in these flaws lies the truth of the frontier. The West wasn't perfect. It was rough, dangerous, and chemically volatile. By looking through the lens of the pioneers, we realize that they didn't just take photos of the West. They synthesized the West. They used elements silver, iron, light, and water to forge a memory. We pack our wagon. The chemicals are corked. The glass plates are wrapped in wool. We've captured unseen landscapes, not by finding new places, but by seeing the old places with ancient eyes. We have resurrected the ghost of the frontier, one glass plate at a time. Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe for more.